Who's your commander?
Good luck.
Equip.
Move to combat. Resolves.
Right.
Now, before you attack
Does
me-
anyone have an answer?
Well played.
Good game.
Hello everyone, I'm DJ, this is the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel, and it's Commander 2018, and it's preview season. And of course, in preview season, we get to see awesome new cards from the set, and I have one for you this morning. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast, for this free preview card. Let's break down a brand new card called Ever Watching Threshold. 2 and a blue for an enchantment that reads, whenever an opponent attacks you and or a planeswalker you control with one or more creatures, draw a card. Now, effects in blue that discourage people from attacking you are pretty normal. Also, effects in blue that let you draw a card, also very normal, but you stick them together and you get something a little bit special. Let's take a look at a few places Ever Watching Threshold might fit in. Well, it has me reminded of cards like Propaganda. Propaganda taxes your opponent's 2 mana for each creature that they attack you with. But hang on, Propaganda actually prevents these massive Alpha Strike type attacks because they just don't have enough mana to attack with so many creatures. Ever Watching Threshold only really gives you a single card no matter how many creatures they attack you with. One advantage of Ever Watching Threshold is that it does protect your planeswalkers, whereas Propaganda just leaves them out hanging. Let's take a look at another card that prevents attacks, Fate Spinner. Fate Spinner is 1 blue for a 1/2 at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep. That player chooses draw step, main phase, or combat phase. The player skips each instance of the chosen step or phase this turn. So this often has opponents skipping combat phase, but they can choose combat phase if they want to. Oftentimes skipping a card or your main phase or something like that. Now this feels a little bit more like Ever Watching Threshold, where you're not necessarily hard locking someone out of attacking you, you're just kind of discouraging them, kind of making it inconvenient, shifting them the other direction. I actually think that discouraging people from attacking you is the most effective when, well, they're just forced to attack, so they naturally attack elsewhere. Rowan Kenrith and Will Kenrith could be a good fit for this card, because Rowan Kenrith makes your opponent's creatures attack, and Ever Watching Threshold kinda protects your planeswalkers. Maybe those creatures will be sent elsewhere. Actually, making your opponents attack when they don't want to is a powerful effect, especially when you can discourage them from attacking you, maybe funnel attacks at other enemies. Cards like Biden of Thassa, Goblin Spymaster, Fumiko the Lowblood, Warmonger Hellkite, Charging Cinderhorn, all of these can manipulate combat at your table, and this Ever Watching Threshold does a further job of manipulation. If they do attack you, well, you have a deck that's built around that, so you're going to have easy answers. And one of them is going to be Ever Watching Threshold, so you can keep that card draw going. The cards that I just mentioned force attacks, but they don't necessarily force it at you. Gideon Jura is a planeswalker. Gideon's +2 reads, during target opponent's next turn, creatures that player controls attack Gideon Jura if able. With Ever Watching Threshold, this is pretty solid card draw. We can also look at a card like Trove of Temptation, 3 and a red for an enchantment. Each opponent must attack you or a planeswalker you control with at least 1 creature each combat if able. Wow, so this card really puts the hammer down. You also get a treasure at your end step. Trove of Temptation seems super out of place in most games, but just imagine if you're forcing your opponents to attack you, you're drawing a card during every combat phase at a multiplayer game, and you're also taking advantage of these combats and messing with your opponents. You could own the whole combat phase. Another card that's really good with Ever Watching Threshold is anything with the Monarch mechanic. I love the Monarch mechanic. It makes games so interesting and so fun. In combination with Ever Watching Threshold, if you have the Monarch, you're tempting opponents to attack you to get this back, and if no one ever attacks you, well, you can just be satisfied drawing your Monarchy card every single turn. I have here Throne of the High City, Keeper of Keys, and Protector of the Crown because I like these ones, but any Monarch card can do. It feels like Ever Watching Threshold is a very narrow card. When is it going to be good? Well, when you're at a table when your opponents have to attack you. It seems like a lot of fun when you have a deck that manipulates combat. but it's really important to note that Everwatching Threshold does not provide the same level of protection that a card like Ghostly Prison or Propaganda provides. I can't see this breaking in as a mainstay to Pelifort decks. Instead, it's going to have to fit into much more niche decks, and hopefully in those decks it'll shine. Thank you very much for Wizards of the Coast for this free preview card. I also want to thank TCGplayer.com, which sponsors the entire Jumbo Commander YouTube channel, along with my patrons who have stood by me for so long. Thank you so much, patrons. If you have any ideas for Everwatching Threshold, leave a comment down below. I want to know where this card fits into our super huge metagame that is Commander. Thanks everyone, see you real soon.